Guru Ameen, the mad scientist, with the answer to a question a lot of you have: why I am not a pro bodybuilder, or why I'm not a pro bodybuilder. And it simply boils down to genetics. What I mean by that is science plays a very big role in bodybuilding and in sports and in building muscle, and to a certain point. And we can use whatever protein powder or whatever it is that we want to use for our advantage, but we're still going to have genetic limitations. You're not going to be able to be past your genetic limitations natural. And then if you talk about enhanced at that point, you're still going to have a level that you cannot pass, even if you are enhanced. So does that mean if you're even more enhanced, can you reach a higher level? No. And there's a lot of factors that contribute to being a pro bodybuilder, on top of the fact that genetics is the first and foremost factor. And I mean this. I mean, if you took out all of the ergogenic aids in bodybuilding, all of them, I would say that probably about 90% in the pros, the results would be the same. The same people will be winning, and that's a combination of multiple things, but I said genetics being first and foremost. I don't have the genetics. If I had the genetics, would I be a pro bodybuilder? Well, I don't, and I figured that out at a very early age. I was competing at a local level, and I was a teenage bodybuilder, and I had advantages. I was eating consistently. I was able to train, wake up, do pretty much what most national level bodybuilders do as a teenager, even though I was in school. And, you know, despite all of the advantages that I may have over somebody else who may have not been able to follow the same strict diet or whatever, or even for that matter, take ergogenic aids, okay? Still, to a certain point, you're gonna plateau, and you're not gonna get past that. And this belief that if you take something, you're gonna be superhuman. Well, you'll be superhuman to yourself with your own genetics, but you're not gonna be superhuman to the guy that was better than you before anything. And what I mean by that is that you could even boil this down to, okay, there's hyper responders that respond really well to weights. And what I mean by that is they have the ability to recover very quickly. That could be because their hormonal levels might be more optimal. It could be because of a number of reasons. Myostatin, who knows? Anyway, there could be a number of contributing factors that lead to that. But you still take that same person, and on a basic level, what I compared myself to was everybody else about the same age as me. And when I actually started weightlifting, it was because I was a lot smaller than everybody else that was my age. So to me, my superhuman level of development was really just to be a little bit more than average, like a little bit better than, you know, maybe somebody would be at my height or, you know, with lean muscle. That's about it. That's all I could expect to be. Could I take a whole bunch of stuff and expect to be more than that? No. And I'll tell you why. I happen to know some, you know, pro bodybuilders, and I happened to see them before they were pro, or some of them as they were early stages in their pro development. It was very, very clear that the ones that I was helping didn't even need to take a quarter of what somebody my size would have to take, for real. And I'm not even kidding you. So you would say, oh, you know, well, these dosages these days, all right, you know, whatever. The bar keeps rising higher and higher and higher as time keeps going by. And as a result of that, you know, the level of achievement's higher and higher and higher. But I couldn't even reach that level of achievement on the national level to even begin to think that certain things are going to make a big, big difference in me as a career if I wanted to be a bodybuilder. And so for me to have to even think about whether I could take that level of stuff, it didn't even enter my head, because I knew automatically that there was no level that I could take to even be on the level as the guys that were not even taking a lot of stuff. So what would be the point if I were to add even a whole bunch more? Even if I am the mad scientist, even if I have made a bunch of other people into pros and all of that, that still doesn't mean that I can do it myself. And that's not that I'm being hard on me, but if you guys take a look at my Facebook page, you can see how much smaller than everybody else. And my brother and the other group of the people, they're 2 years older than me, but you can clearly see how much smaller than I am. And 2 years the gap never bridged. I mean, he's 6 feet tall, I'm 5'6". It's just the way it is. I mean, certain things aren't going to change, just like, no matter how much stuff that they put in sports, the results would pretty much be about the same. And let's talk about those other contributing factors, because genetics, I think we've spoken enough about that. Money, time, energy, all of these things are contributing factors. Money, you have to be able to eat the amount of food that it takes, first and foremost. And then beyond that, to be a pro bodybuilder, you have to be able to take the level of drugs that it takes to sustain that kind of mass and to be that big. But before you even get into that, you have to know that you could do that if you did take that. And that's what a lot of people right now, there's this big misconception that everybody can be pro if they just take enough stuff. And it's simply not true. That is not true. You cannot be a pro bodybuilder if you think that taking steroids or just taking lots and lots, even if you have as much as you possibly want. Maybe you're rich and you think that you could take a whole bunch of drugs and steroids and SARMs and insulin and growth and all this stuff and you're gonna be pro. You're not. You're gonna hit a certain limitation of what your body can handle even with the drugs. And then there'll be a point at which those drugs won't do any more than what they've done. And then you're going to be taking a whole bunch of drugs just to maintain what you have. And then you got to take a serious look at yourself and say, well, why am I taking all these drugs? So that I can be second or third or fourth, and that the guy that beats me can beat me on a fifth of the drugs that I'm taking? Guys, that's the truth. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. The guys that are winning, again, I'm talking about 90%, there may be about 10% of the people out there that are winning some shows or placing in the top 3, that'll cover, I think you guys know what I'm talking about, the top 3 of some pretty good shows. But if you think that you're going to take a lot of steroids and turn pro, you might. You also might die.